Hello, everybody. We have an update in regards to John Karony. This is a letter from the court, and it's in response to defendant Braden John Karony's renewed bail motion as to Braden John Karony. Enright John entered in on February 9th, 2024. And this is essentially tied over with this other posting I did in previous video, which is in regards to the criminal cause for bail application of John Karony. So this is posted by Live4Forward over on Twitter. And before I dive into that, I want to let you guys know about the crypto exchange Margex. I do have a referral link in the description below, and there's no KYC if you decide you want to get started with this exchange. If you use my referral and make a deposit, you get a bonus. And this crypto exchange has up to 100x leverage. You can also use copy trading. So maybe if you're not confident in your trading skills, you take a look at what some other traders are doing, mimic your trades off of theirs. And they got a good collection of crypto they're actually adding to their list. You can find that link down in the description below. And this posting from Live4Forward, we go ahead and dive right on over there. It's by ECF, the Honorable Taryn A. Merkel, United States Magistrate Judge for the Eastern District of New York. And it says, Dear Judge Merkel, the government respectfully writes in response to defendant Braden John Karony's February 6th, 2024 renewed bail motion. For the reasons that follow, the defendant's motion should be denied. Number one, background and procedural history. A, the defendant's arrest and the District of Utah's release order. On October 31st, 2023, a grand jury in this district returned a 3-count indictment charging the defendant and 2 co-defendants with 1 count of securities fraud conspiracy in violation of, gives you the code, 1 count of wire fraud conspiracy, and 1 count of money laundering conspiracy for their roles in a series of fraudulent schemes concerning the digital asset issuer SafeMoon US LLC. The defendant was arrested that night at Salt Lake City International Airport. On November 3rd, 2023, the Honorable Daphne A. Oberg, Magistrate Judge, District of Utah, found that the, quote, threshold was met for a detention hearing and set the hearing for November 8th, 2023. On November 8th, 2023, the court ordered the defendant to be released pending trial, release order. Now, if we go ahead and step back here for a second, there is a footnote here. It says the government incorporates by reference its November 8th, 2023 detention memo and December 6th, 2024 letter brief in opposition to the defendant's renewed bail motion, including their recitation of the offense conduct, the instant indictment, and the defendant's arrest. Then we have B, Judge Committee vacates the release order and detains the defendant. The government promptly moved to stay and revoke the release order. On November 9th, 2013, I think they meant 2023, the Honorable LaShawn D'Arcy Hall, United States District Judge, ordered a stay of the release order. On November 13th, 2023, after oral argument, Judge Committee vacated the release order and ordered the defendant to be removed to the district in the custody of the U.S. Marshal Service. In vacating the release order, Judge Committee stated, with respect to the defendant, it seems utterly clear the defendant is a person with access to substantial amounts of money based on the government's proffer. We're talking about money that it would be potentially easy for the defendant to access, but hard for the government to trace or track. And we don't have any of the moral suasion that would be associated with meaningful security posted by solvent sureties who have the kind of relationship with the defendant that would bring the moral suasion that I think we all would want to see. Magistrate Judge Cho denies the defendant's renewed bond motion. So on December 4th, 2023, the defendant proposed a new bail package nearly identical to that presented to Judge Committee, but with the proposal of his parents as sureties and a Kansas City apartment he owns as collateral. On December 6th, 2023, the government opposed the defendant's motion, arguing that it failed to address the concerns identified by Judge Committee when the court denied him bail in November, and that it was otherwise insufficient to ensure the defendant's appearance in the Eastern District of New York. As for the defendant's proposal to have his parents serve as suretors, the government detailed why they were wholly inadequate for a number of reasons, including because they were both estranged from the defendant at the time of his arrest and because they were both fact witnesses in this action. As for the former, the defendant had previously sued his mother and was actively litigating against her in connection with a commercial dispute in Utah State Court. As for the latter, both of the defendant's parents and or entities under their control have received funds from the proceeds of the charged fraud, and the defendant's mother had, since October of 2022, been providing the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, with information about the defendant and his SafeMoon-related conduct, which she believed was illegal. On December 6, 2023, Magistrate Judge Cho, after hearing argument from the parties, denied the defendant's application without prejudice to proposing a revised bail package with a sufficient bond amount and sureties. The defendant's second renewed bond motion. On February 6, 2024, the defendant renewed his motion for bail, proposing a bond in the amount of $1 million to be secured by his parents and 5 additional suretors with collective collateral of $1.2 million. For the reasons set forth below, both the proposed bond amount and proposed suretors, largely friends of the defendant's family, who lack the kind of relationship with the defendant to offer the moral suasion necessary to dissuade the defendant from fleeing, are inadequate to ensure the defendant's appearance in the Eastern District of New York. Now, before I go further into this, I'm just saying on my own on the side, I'm really curious, I'm sure many of you guys are, who these other suretors are, the 5 additional suretors. Will we ever find out their names for sure? I don't know, but the fact that you've got the parents and 5 additional suretors willing to put up collateral of $1.2 million when they're looking at a proposed bond in the amount of $1 million, who are these people that are willing to put their money on the line for John Karony? Then we go on to argument A. The defendant has not shown that he is not a risk of flight. As set forth in the government's November 8, 2023 detention letter and December 6, 2023 letter in opposition to the defendant's first bond motion, the defendant has primarily resided in the United Kingdom since SafeMoon's launch in March 2021. He's engaged to marry a citizen of the United Kingdom and plans to get married there. The defendant has not and cannot dispute these facts. Instead, the defendant continues to claim that this prior military service, his return visits to the United States, his family ties to Utah, and his residential tie to Florida establish that he does not pose a risk of flight. As the government has previously established, any of the defendant's historical ties to the United States have materially diminished over the 2 years during which he largely resided in the UK and became engaged to a UK citizen. Those ties further diminished less than 2 months ago when, while still detained, the defendant sold his Utah home for more than $1.8 million. Today, the defendant is in an entirely different posture. He is now under indictment and faces charges that together exposes him to up to 45 years in prison if convicted, and likely tens of millions of dollars in potential forfeiture and restitution. The defendant's incentive to flee is great. The defendant also claims that his pretrial detention has prejudiced his ability to consult with counsel, and that the government cannot meet its burden in proving that if released, he constitutes a danger to the community. As previously argued, the defendant's purported inability to adequately consult with counsel is undermined by the reality that detained defendants in this district regularly consult with their counsel to, among other things, prepare for trial. The defendant's position is no different from every defendant in custody in the Bureau of Prisons and does not provide a basis for release. As for the defendant's danger to the community, the defendant could easily evade his proposed conditions of release by having others access digital wallets maintained outside the U.S. and around the world. So going back a page, we have footnotes. On January 2nd, 2024, the defendant made his initial appearance in the district, and Your Honor arraigned him on the indictment. On or about December 17th, 2023, the government seized the proceeds of the house sale as fruits of the charged frauds pursuant to a judicially authorized seizure warrant. Then B here, the defendant's proposed bail package is inadequate. Even if the court agreed that the defendant could be released from custody subject to a bail package with certain pretrial conditions, the defendant's proposed suretors, collateral, and bond are wholly inadequate to ensure the defendant's continued appearance for the reasons that follow. The defendant's proposal to have his parents serve as suretors fails for the reasons previously argued by the government and adopted by Magistrate Judge Cho in denying the defendant's last bond motion. Namely, they are both fact witnesses in this case. They were both estranged from the defendant until the time of his arrest, and indeed, Ms. Karony actively provided information to the FBI during the government's investigation while she was litigating a commercial dispute he brought against her. The defendant's other proposed suretors are also inadequate. These are cosigners 3 and 5 through 7. Based on the government's interviews of these proposed suretors, cosigners 5 through 7 appear to have relationships primarily with the defendant's other family members, but not the defendant himself, and cosigner 3 appears to have a very limited personal relationship with the defendant. Critically, none of these proposed suretors appear to have had material contact with the defendant over the last 2-3 years while he was operating SafeMoon and largely residing in the UK. The proposed suretors thus lack the kind of relationship with the defendant that would bring the necessary moral suasion Judge Committee called for when he denied the defendant bail and ordered him detained. And it says, despite attempts to contact cosigner 4, the government has not yet been able to interview him. So we know that that person is a man, right? Saying that him. So then it goes on here. Finally, the proposed bond of $1 million is also inadequate. The defendant, as alleged, personally profited from his fraudulent conduct in the tens of millions of dollars. $1 million is thus inadequate to deter the defendant from violating his bail, given his access to digital assets that far exceed the amount. And then it's signed by John O. Enright. Breon Peace, United States Attorney, by John O. Enright, Assistant U.S. Attorney. Okay, let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. Would love to get your opinions on this. And also, if you're looking for more crypto plays, whether they're a new token that's launching, it's something that's already being actively traded, but you want to be able to have access to high-level traders and the group that is in these discussions, you can check out HG Access. I do have a link in the Patreon that is down in the description below. You can go check that out. Again, high-level traders that are discussing all these different kinds of plays that are going on out there. If you want to check it out, you can find the link down in the description below. And once again, I also have my referral link for MargeX down in the description as well. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. Double shout out thank you to We Love, Victor Vegas for being higher level patrons. Thank you to my YouTube members for your support. God bless. We'll see you in the next episode.